Startzeit war 5,89. Der Safety Bot unterwegs in Wall. Snake. Bridge, unter der Eisbahnbrücke hindurch in den Zielschuss der Safety Sled. Das ist ein FES-Schritt, die deutschen Fahrer. Ich habe die Möglichkeit, den nochmal auszuprobieren. Und die Ziel hinein. Macht sich bereit Sven Renkli. Sven Renkli, die Bahn ist frei. Gestartet, nächster in der Box, Mark Brück. Es geht nur noch knapp 10 Minuten bis zum Start des Viererbob-Rennens, knappe 10 Minuten. In der Zwischenzeit die Spurläufer unterwegs. Sven Renkli, ein junger Nachwuchsfahrer aus der Schweiz. Vorsicht beim Horseschuh. Unterwegs in den Wall. Zeit für Sven Renkli, 5,68 Start, 1,10,41 die Laufzeit.
1, gate! Hands roll!
Zielschuss. Kommt ins Ziel in 1:09:32.
Hello and welcome back to St. Moritz in Switzerland, and just look at the view across the valley. Above the Moritz-Celerina, the white-clad peaks and a clear blue sky. A sunny Sunday in January, and the natural track in St. Moritz, the perfect playground for our four-man bobsleigh. World Cup number 3 of the season, featuring 23 sleds. And lots of fans watching trackside. The oldest, the fastest, and the only remaining hand-built natural track on the planet. St. Moritz is the Monaco Grand Prix of ice racing in every aspect. Out of the first couple of kinks, long, flat, straight run down to Wall Corner. And from the start, you've got to be loaded in before you get into kink 1, otherwise these two straights are very, very costly. Out of Wall, little short run into the left-right combo that is Snake 1 and Snake 2. Under the footbridge into Sunny Corner, and then heading down through Nash and Dixon, named after the 64 gold medalists in Innsbruck, members of the St. Moritz Bob Club. Up to the awesome Horseshoe Corner, diving out into Telephone and Shamrock, and the left at Devil's Dyke. Exit here to set up the fast 4 right-handers at the bottom through Nameless into Tree, Bridge, which doesn't go under the bridge, Leap, which does, and the Gunter Sachs curve, and then down into Martineau, named after Hubert Martineau, the first president of the Bob Club, over the Cresta Run and out of Portago, across the finish line and up to the finish. Well, while many tracks are completed by a four-man in under 50 seconds, or 50 to 55, here it'll be another 10 to 12 seconds longer than that. Francesco Friedrich leads Brad Hall and Adam Amor in the World Cup standings, and the great German driver looking for another win here in St. Moritz. Currently heading the chase for the Crystal Globe in both the two-man and the four-man competition, and we're in a busy period for the bobsledders. Well, there is Francesco Friedrich, like everybody else, just warming up in this covered garage just above the Dracula Start building. Johannes Lochner, yesterday's two-man winner, along with Francesco. They both claimed their 5th two-man gold. Adam Amor there took the bronze medal yesterday. Brad Hall, the four-man winner last weekend in Winterberg. What can he do here? Well, that's going to be a very interesting prospect. In our start draw, an early draw not necessarily a benefit. The track tends to remain fast, not necessarily a deficit either. Francesco Friedrich will go off 4th. Hansi Lochner goes off 7th. Brad Hall 11th ahead of Adam Amor. And of our 23 starters, the fastest 20 sleds go through. Race 3, the IBSF four-man bobsleigh World Cup. We're in St. Moritz in Switzerland, and China kick us off. Li Chunjian with Jiang Miaoyan, Xi Yaolong and Chen Heng. Xi Yaolong, yesterday's two-man brakeman in his 2nd World Cup race. Jiang at 2 in his 3rd. Chen Heng on the brakes, his 17th. The same as his driver. 5:17, they set a start record with each of our categories this season. New start records, new track records. Because this track is hand-built every season, the records are set new every season. And once the track melts away, so do the records. Out of Snake, down to Sunny. Shades are up there, so the corner's not too sunny. Ice not melting. Through Nash and Dixon, and heading down towards Horseshoe. Nice height. Good exit onto Telephone as well. Really important to get off Horseshoe with that accelerative force and not whack it off the walls. 109 kilometers an hour through the forest. Our first sled hitting higher numbers than anybody else so far this weekend. 76 miles an hour already coming through the fast right-handers, and 145, 90.5 miles an hour. Across the line, new track record is 1:05.52. Well, I imagine that might be the first time that Li Chunjian and the crew have had a start record and a track record, and certainly not at the same time, unless by sheer coincidence they went first in the first heat here in St. Moritz. Junior Worlds, 4 World Cup starts and a World Championships here. A very messy load on the run down to Kink 1. That is not how you do it. Out of Horseshoe onto Telephone, not bad. Next up, Mattia Barriola of Italy, the 29-year-old, had his first World Cup outing here as a driver last year, finished in 15th place, 17th in the World Championships in 2023, joined by two-man brakeman Riccardo Ragazzi, Fabio Batti and Nicolas Artuso. Finished 15th in the two-man race yesterday, 15th in last year's four-man race. His best ever four-man result, in fact, is a 14th place, a pair of 14th places in Lillehammer and Altenburg. Now, that's a much tidier load, but all to no avail. Came off Kink 1, sideways, hit the wall. Better through Kink 2, but he's already lost ground. Started 700s faster than the Chinese, who's already a quarter second back. And that's how critical those early few meters are, because you've got no speed on board. .37 hundredths adrift. Last year, Lee Chun-Jan finished 10th. Mattia Variola finished 15th. But Variola was ahead of Lee in the two-man race yesterday. They were 15th and 16th. Second best speed, not as quick as the Chinese sled. Mattia Variola might be in a little danger of not making the second heat. We'll have to see how the track continues to evolve as the afternoon progresses. Across the line he comes, 1:06.45. He will be very disappointed with the start of that run. Didn't really get a lot better. Oh, early on the brakes, the brakeman. Mani Mahata and the track worker have to head down to the sled. Normally they come up past where you pull them back onto the ice sheet at the finish. The guys pushing the sled back up. So Nicolas Artuso being a little ambitious with the brakes. And here you can see out of Shamrock into Devil's Dyke, sled just rocking and rolling, comes a little late off there as well. Out of that tree, and again waving around through Martineau. This is over the Cresta run between Martineau and Portago. You can't afford taps and skids. Sun Kai-chi next for China, his 13th World Cup start. Ding Song at 2, Ye Jilong at 3, who was on the two-man, and An Tai in his second four-man World Cup race, his second ever bobsleigh start. 5:13, quick getaway, so they have the new start record. Nice and quiet here. 17th yesterday in the two-man race, so behind both Lee Chun-Jan and Mattia Variola. Finished 13th in last year's four-man race here in St. Moritz. Little meandering out of Dixon. Nice height in Horseshoe. Nicely onto Shamrock and Devil's Dyke. Good transitions here through Nameless into Tree and Bridge, and that will help with the speed. Leap. And out of Kuntersax, oh no, came off much too early, tapped both sides of the track, and the sled getting sideways is really going to put on the brakes. 47 hundredths back, 1:05.99. I think that's going to see him down right towards the tail of the top 20. Whoa, 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 whoa. Well, there is a fairly large gap between braking much too early and not making it up and just continuing back all the way up the mountain to St. Moritz. And unfortunately, our brakeman there, An Tai, did not get onto the brakes early enough. Well, here's the start. Sun Kai-chi sort of got to the handle, sort of didn't. Nice height here in Horseshoe, late height as well. Has to take a bit of a steer to get it down. Instead of rolling off, you don't want to crash off Horseshoe. It's a long, long way down to the bottom if you're upside down at that stage. Now then, Francesco Friedrich with Matthias Sommer, Alex Schuller and Felix Straub. Straub in his 10th four-man World Cup, Schuller in his 37th, Matthias Sommer in his 13th. And for Francesco Friedrich today, 90th four-man World Cup start. Yesterday, joint two-man gold with Hansi Lochner, 139th World Cup medal. Let's look for the start record. It is now 4:97. Yep, into the fours already. Oh, ease over to the driver's right a little bit, coming down to wall. There we go. 4,300s up. Well, he is the first of the front runners, in fairness. First three are always from outside of the top 10 ranked drivers. Half a second up at Sunny. Even smoother than he was in the two-man yesterday, which is a little twitchy here. Big height. Got it down nicely into Telephone and Shamrock. 68.2 miles an hour. Building speed rapidly now. You really feel the mountain working for you. 76.3 miles an hour. Oh, a hard hit into Gunter Sachs. 146.3, 90.9 miles an hour at the bottom. New track record is 104.82. Well, he ended up with the two-man track record, going faster in the second heat than Johannes Lochner. And Hansi holding on to take a joint gold medal, the first in 12 years here on this track. And again here into Devil's Dyke, maybe just on a little hard. And here getting a good slap coming into the Gunter Sachs curve. Gunter Sachs, by the way, builder of the Dracula Cup, the big nightclub restaurant by the Start building, playboy and big member of the St. Moritz Bob Club in his time. Markus Treichel, 53rd World Cup start for the Austrian, with Sascha Stepan, Sebastian Mitter and Christian Huber behind him, and together the brakemen with 91 four-man starts among them. Fourth in the two-man race yesterday after a great second heat. Diane Nichols-Bardi there on the right-hand side of the back, the two-man brakeman yesterday. 8th place. His best result in World Cup racing was 7th in the World Championships here in four-man 2 years ago. In and down. Ooh, and just a little touch on the wall on the exit of King 1. 800 slower than Francesco Friedrich's crew, and that is going to leave him right in the top half dozen. He's been driving so well this season, Markus Treichel. Since Benny Meyer retired after the Beijing Games, Treichel's inherited his athletes, and that has really helped the start, and Markus has really developed his driving to suit as well. Out of Horseshoe, into Telephone, nicely onto Shamrock, better speed than Friedrich, 110 kilometers an hour, 68.3 miles an hour. 123, 76.5 miles an hour. Absolutely hurtling down the mountain. Nice run out to the Gunter Sachs curve, 91 miles an hour. This will be a new track record, and the lead for Markus Treichel. No, where did that go? 105.01, 1900s back. Wow. Well, losing that bit of ground early on. He was 800s behind at the start, 1900s behind at the bottom. I thought he was coming there with enough speed over Friedrich. But again, sleds massaged by Wolfgang Stampfer. Look at the numbers they produce at high speed. Nice drive by Markus Treichel. 1900s back. Is he going to be in the top three? That is going to be a tough race. Next up, Mihai Tentea of Romania. Francesco Friedrich leads. Mihai 13th in a two-man race yesterday. His best result here in only a couple of World Cup outings is 19th place. Same four-man crew he's had for the last 8 or 9 races. 5.20. Nice, quiet. He's got such great driving hands, Mihai Tentea. The crew starting 5:20, 23 hundredths slower than Francesco Friedrich. Now, normal bobsleigh math says you should be 3 times that deficit behind at the bottom, which would be 60 hundredths, 6/10 of a second, or 7/10 nearly. And then you add in another 20% longer track. He is 6/10 back at the moment, 7/10 back, but he's not got the speed of some of our front runners. Only the 4 fastest. It's still a good looking run. He's going to be ahead of the Chinese Sun Kai-chi, not ahead of Li Chun-jan, but he's 1800s back. Well, that might 8,800's back. That's going to be somewhere in the 10 to 15. And as so often, we're probably going to have a massive logjam from about 4th, 5th down to about 16th, 17th, maybe down all the way through the top 20. Few little errors there, getting onto corners a little late, coming off them with a bit of a flop. And here again, a skid and a tap into the Gunter Sachs curve. It's been milder in training than it is in the race. Yesterday's joint gold medalist, Johannes Lochner, won the 4-man race here last year. Georg Fleischhauer, Eric Bruckert and Florian Bauer. Florian in his 40th World Cup start. He's the guy on the back handles. Bruckert, the 27-year-old, his 18th and furthest from us. Georg Fleischhauer. Fleischhauer in his 12th 4-man World Cup. Georg helped Hansi to gold yesterday. Drops in at 2. A winner here in 2018 and last year in the 4-man. Winner last year and this year in the 2-man. A great start, 5:03 from the boys, gives him a great chance to challenge Francesco Friedrich here. Just 600s behind at the start. But he's got to turn this deficit around. 1700s back at Sunny. Can't really afford to lose much more. Little meander down to Horseshoe. Doesn't get the height he was wanting, I'm sure. 1100s back. Third best speed, though. Treichel was the fastest. Friedrich second quickest. So Hansi's still losing ground. Little mistakes. 1:23.1. 76.5. Quicker than Treichel. Was a 10th back. How close is this going to be? 1:47.4, 91.6 miles an hour. Final corner. Lochner needs the record, gets the record. Okay, stat fans, when has there been a dead heat in the same weekend in 2-man and 4-man? I'm not saying, but just in case, I haven't got time to have a look. Somebody take butchers at the records. I can't think of it, but it might have happened. Well, Johannes Lochner coming from a slightly slower start to lead by 1/100th of a second. Decent height in Horseshoe, but a good exit into Telephone. Shamrock. This is off Devil's Dyke into Tree. Off Nameless into Tree. Big smile from Hansi. The family is up there on the balcony at Frazzoni's drinking the champagne. Meanwhile, Cedric Follador, Nicola Mariani, Luc Carolli and Quentin Juillard are at the line. The Swiss ripping it out of me for my French mispronunciations. Je désolé. 5:14 getaway for Cedric Follador and the crew. 1100s back, 5th fastest start. Follador with a good day yesterday, 9th place in the 2-man race. His best result on this track is 7th. His World Cup best ever is a 5th place finish. And again, although it's the home ice for the Swiss, they've been on it for a week in a Christmas New Year break, and that is it. It is not built pre-season. It doesn't exist pre-season. So they get a lot of post-season running on it. 4200s back, 5th at the start, 4th on the splits at the moment, behind Marcus Treichel, but ahead of Lee Chun-Jan. And across the line, 4th place it is, 6/10s back, 1:05.42. Race here in Junior Worlds 21, World Championships 23, and last year's World Cup. Follador drops in, and behind him, Nicola Mariani at 2, last to sit in. Swiss used to have a thing where the man at 2 always rode cannonball with his knees up under his chin, excruciatingly uncomfortable. Are they still doing that? Is that Lucas Rolly's knees up under his chin? That's strictly unnecessary, guys, really. Whatever works. Next up, Patrick Baumgartner, Eric Fantazzini at 2, at 3, Alex Virginer, and Virginer raced in the 2-man yesterday. Lorenzo Bellotti on the back. Lorenzo's 70th career 4-man race since Altenburg, January 2017, when it was his World Cup debut. It's his 34th World Cup start on the back of a sled today. 10th in the 2-man, Baumgartner. 12th here last year. His best result in St. Moritz, 5:11 getaway. Another strong start. So really interesting that Alex Virginer on the back of the 4-man today, but driving on his own auspices in the 2-man yesterday, making it 3 Italian sleds in 2-man. 1500s back, 4th at the start, 4th on the splits through Nash and Dixon. Nice exit up to Horseshoe. He can take the line he wants. Good height. Nice exit as well into Telephone. Shamrock to Devil's Dyke, who's been tricky in the 2-man, less of a drama in the 4-man for everybody. Out of Nameless into Tree. Coming on here really fast onto these corners, skidding down between Bridge and Leap and Sachs. 5th best speed. Will he be ahead of Cedric Follodor at the line? He should be. He is by 0.04 of a second, 1:05.38. Nice run from Patrick Baumgartner. So perhaps the 2 most improved drivers of the season, 3rd and 4th, Marcus Treichel and Patrick Baumgartner. Over their previous results, they are both comfortably outperforming what they've done in most of the previous seasons. See, in real time, you don't see that uphill runner coming off the ice. It shows how much he's rotating out of Nameless into Tree. So 9 sleds down, and we get to our 2nd Swiss crew. Timo Rohner's 10th World Cup start. Greg Jones, his 23rd. Tim Annans, 3rd. His sister made her women's bobsleigh debut today. Mathieu Herbsberger, his 6th 2-man World Cup start. Timo Rohner finished 7th in the 2-man yesterday with Herbsberger behind him. They drop in, get down, nicely done. 5:16 getaway, that's strong. 8th and 9th so far this season. Has done 2 Junior Worlds and 3 Europe Cup races here, so plenty of racing experience for Timo Rohner. And he was 12th in the 2023 World Championships. Seventh at the start, up to 5th. Lots of Hop Suisse down the track here. Plenty of cowbell from the rowdy crowd at the Horseshoe Bar. 2nd best speed for Timo Rohner. The Citius sled is flying, fastest of all down at the bottom of the track. Brilliant stuff from Timo Rohner so far. What's he got in the final speed trap? 91.6, fastest. How close is he going to be to the leaders? He's 3rd, 1800s behind. What a run from Timo Rohner. Is this the day where he starts to come out of the shadow of his illustrious father? Nice, strong start from the crew, in, down. Just a little check there on the brake handles from Mathieu Herbsberger. He wasn't sure it had come in, but a great drive by Timo Rohner. That wasn't start. The start definitely put him in position, but he converted that brilliant drive into 3rd place. Well, 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 cat, pigeons, all together. Brad Hall now, 53rd World Cup start in four-man. Taylor Lawrence, Leon Greenwood and Greg Cackett. Greg's 44th four-man start. World Championship silver medalists in four-man here 2 years ago. 6th place last year, his best World Cup result at a 5:05. A blinding start from the crew. Leon Greenwood in at 3. His 4th four-man World Cup. His first was here last January. A winner last week. Brad Hall in the four-man in Winterberg. 3rd fastest at the start. Tied for the lead. Beautiful outer horseshoe. 2nd best speed. 400s back. Don't forget the leaders are only 100th of a second apart. Fastest of all. Quicker even than Rona. 76.6 miles an hour. Down the straight. 91.8 miles an hour. Double tap. Is it a track record? It is a track record. Brad Hall leads in Switzerland.
Come on! Oh.
Now, historically, this was the home of British bobsledding. That's why the corners are named after Nash and Dixon. They were members of the St. Moritz Bob Club. Tony Nash and Robin Dixon used to travel out here with their sled behind a Land Rover and stay here for the winter. This was their base. Then they'd head off to the various other races. And wow, what a drive from Brad Hall. Ties with Johannes Lochner. The top 3 covered by 100th of a second. Okay, Adam Amour, let's see what you've got. 2-man bronze yesterday. Issam, his brother, behind. Then Benedict Hertel, the 2-man bobsled driver, pusher behind him, and Rupert Schenk at 4. In and down. 5:06, 100th behind the Brits. Only raced here for the first time last year in 2-man and 4-man. Finished 9th in the 4-man race. But only raced here for the first time in a 4-man last year. Raced here in the 2-man worlds as well. Almost clips Monty's Bolt. In all sorts of trouble there, out of Sunny. Hands up anybody who's ever seen a sled crash into Nash and Dixon. We didn't get too close there, but much closer than you'd like. 1600s back, all of that out of Snake down to Horseshoe has taken speed out of the sled that he's not going to be able to get back. It's not exactly slow. 146.8, 91.2 miles an hour. 91 miles an hour. 105.04. So he is in 6th place behind Brad Hall and Hansi Lochner, Francesco Friedrich, Timo Rona, Marcus Treichel. Well, Amour finished 3rd yesterday behind the dead heat for gold. Yeah, a bit comme ci, comme ça. Well, here out of Snake 2, on to Sunny. And what happens here? Does he get on a little high and comes off late? No, comes off early, gets tapped away, clips the pannier there at the exit of Monty's Bolt, and then into Nash and Dixon. Not comfy. All right. It happens. It certainly does. Let's see what happens in the second heat. So that's your top 10 at the moment. Brad Hall and Hansi Lochner tied at the top. So all sorts to conjure with already for heat 2, but we've still got lots of players. Jacob's calendar 11th, I beg your pardon, 13th out at the start shed. 16th World Cup start for him in 4-man. Laurens Kaufmans, Mads Miknes and Maurice Klaver behind him. Mads Miknes in his 59th 4-man race. Should be his 60th. He was scheduled to race last week but didn't. 5:12 start. Good solid start for Calendar and the crew. 7th best velocity. Finished 11th here last year. Crashed out in the 4-man World Championships the year before. A lot of the time, you don't think you're going to get crashes in St. Moritz, but crashes happen everywhere. Ooh, little skiddy up to Horseshoe, big height. Hits into Telephone, late onto Shamrock. Gets it together in Devil's Dyke. Onto Nameless and Tree. That little transition is quite hard in a 4-man. You're going so fast. 75.4 miles an hour. And down at the bottom, 145, only 90.5 miles an hour. Only. Across the line, 105.37. Decent run, 7th at the start, 7th at the bottom, ahead of Baumgarten, ahead of Follador, ahead of Lee, Tentea, Sun and Variola. That might well be a top 10 run by the end of this heat. Nice load from the crew, just a little late coming out of Nash and Dixon, skidding down and tapping into Horseshoe. Look at the height though, late height, doesn't quite take the frost off the wood. 14th of 23 starters, the USA's Frank Del Duca, Carsten Vissing, who was on the 2-man, Manio Mitchell and Dylan Gilbert, who made his debut last week in Winterberg. Frank and Carsten finished 8th in a 2-man race yesterday. Frank was 14th last year. They got in and are almost down, still not down. And a big clatter with the wall, and despite the wider entrance to the cowl than a lot of the sleds, not sure who wasn't quite settled, either Carsten or Manio Mitchell. I think Carsten Vissering at 2 was still trying to wriggle himself in after kink 1. Half a second back. 10th at the start, and on the bottom right you can see 13th on the split times. 12th best speed. Can he bring this back into the top 10 ahead of Lee Chun-jan? Little late everywhere here in the forest. Taps down into that bridge out of Sachs. Nice and clean, 12th best speed at the bottom. I don't think this is going to be a top 12 run. At the line, it is 105.92. Slips in front of Sun Kai-chi by just 0.07 of a second. Well, the load wasn't great. Carsten Vissering and Manio Mitchell, 2 and 3. Somehow between the two of them didn't get in, and yeah, Frank walks away from that one. Not a good run, one that you wish had stayed in training. Little late everywhere, look, late exit, taps the wall, gets on late. That leaves you late off into the next corner as well. Not a happy bunny, Frank Del Duca. Ooh. So next up, Jakob Mandelbauer, our second Austrian driver. Only the 5th World Cup start for Mandelbauer. Raced here in the Junior Worlds and Europe Cup in January of last year. Adam Wiener, 3rd World Cup. Dominik Hanschitz, the 6th for him. Easy for me to say. And Lukasic, a 3rd 2-man, a 4-man World Cup start for him rather. Missed the cut in the 2-man race, eased out by 100th of a second, and I'm afraid he might miss the cut here as well. 5:19 is a decent start, but crossed up like that, sideways, full width across the track, is not good news. So 13th at the start, 14th at the moment, and he will not have good speed either. Ooh, and again, Nash and Dixon. He's really struggling here. Trouble getting onto Horseshoe. Lowest speed that we've seen. I mean, you're still absolutely flying here. 70 miles an hour and accelerating, 74 miles an hour, and he's the slowest speed so far. And that's why the driver has to have his wits about him here. Even if you're making mistakes, you have to not focus on them. You've just got to keep the sled going in the right direction. The speeds are so high. 106.29. I think Wolfie's face says it all. Unlikely to get a second heat, Jakob Mandelbauer. It might happen, but it doesn't seem entirely likely. Well, off the start, they were sideways, and again here, out of Sonny, hits the wall, down into Nash and Dixon. Late height, comes out into Telephone. I think there was a pretty substantial hit into Telephone as well. Very late exit, really had to pull the sled down, otherwise he would have rolled off. We have seen it before. Getting the snow out before the sled is weighed. Next up, Michi Vogt for Switzerland. 40th four-man World Cup. His second of the season after returning last week. Fifth in the two-man. Dominik Schlepfer, Dominik Hufschmidt and Andy Haas behind him, who was on the two-man yesterday. Andy Haas made his debut here in January 2021 in four-man. Michi Vogt was the gold medalist in the Junior Worlds here in 2021. Fifth in the World Championship in 23. Fourth place in last year's race. Sixth on the splits off the 8th best start. He is still recovering after the Altenburg crash. Good height. Let's see the speed numbers. There you go, best speed of all. 68.5 miles an hour. 79.79 miles an hour. Michi Vogt absolutely flying. 500's back. He could lead this at the line. 147.7. Not quite as quick as Brad Hall, but did he have enough? No, he's third. Tied with Francesco Friedrich. Brilliant, brilliant drive from Michi Vogt. 100th, he's told. A dead heat for the lead. A 100th back, a dead heat for second. 4 sleds will go in at least into the second heat, covered by 100th of a second. All 4 of them. We've had dead heats in bobsleigh before. We had one yesterday. We've had a 3-way tie in men's skeleton in the World Cup in Innsbruck about 4 years ago. We've never had a 4-way tie. Bring it on. Well, away from that drama, potentially, here is Martin Krantz. Now, watch the lows, because they didn't get all 4 men in at the start of last year's World Cup. Mauro Bühler, Lorenz Lenher and David Schuffen are the crew. Bühler and Schuffen made their debut last week. Beg your pardon, they didn't. They made it 1 race ago. Lorenz Lenher in his 3rd four-man World Cup, as is his driver. Well, they all get in this time, so that's a start, 5:37. And for Liechtenstein, it's about trying to make the second heat. 17th away, 17th fastest start. With 1,700 meters of ice, you can really outdrive your start. Now, he's not got the most experience on the track. His World Cup debut was in the race here last year, and they were disqualified because they didn't have everybody in the sled. Oh, a little rocking and rolling down below Horseshoe. Speed is decent, look at that, 11th fastest. At the moment, he's in the race. He's got a couple of sleds behind him. If he can finish 14th or 15th at the bottom, he's got a good shot Is he ahead of Variola? Yes, he is, and ahead of Mandelbauer. 2 sleds behind him. He has got a shot at making the race. Good work on the brakes, getting the sled stopped perfectly. Legendary driver here, Donald Holstein, who often drives the taxi Bobs and historic Bobs, is one of Martin Kranz's coaches. A little untidy below Horseshoe, but he had enough speed. That might get him into the race. Taylor Austin of Canada next up. Taylor in his 11th World Cup race, with Johan Esrik Parkinson at 2, Mark Zanet at 3, Chris Ashley at 4, and Johan and Mark both in their 2nd World Cup, having made their debut last week. 24th in a 2-man, didn't make the cut, but his best result here, a 13th place finish. Second World Cup start ever for Taylor Austin was in Whistler, and he took a bronze medal, still his World Cup best. 5:28 getaway. So 17th fastest start, and that should give him an opportunity to try and make it into the field. We've just seen Martin Kranz come down 15th fastest out of 17 off a slower getaway. And Taylor with more driving experience, and at least as much here in St. Moritz. Ooh, skid up to Horseshoe, deals with it well. Looked like a quiet entry into Telephone. Ooh, rattles Devil's Dyke though. 15th best speed, but he is up to 14th on the splits. And this will put 3 sleds behind him. And this should almost guarantee him a second heat. 13th will do. There'll be 4 sleds behind him. 8th best speed at the bottom. Good recovery from Taylor Austin. He's in the race. So Taylor Austin is in, and he has 5 sleds behind him. Frank Del Duca has 4 behind him, so he will get a second heat no matter what else happens. Sun Kai-chi, Martin Kranz, Jakob Mandelbauer, Mattia Variola, not guaranteed. Oh, come back, baby, into Horseshoe. He's still trying to straighten up the set. Look at him looking out. He's looking for Telephone. There's where I need to dive down. Takes a late steer down into Telephone. Gets that slingshot effect. Clatters off Shamrock into Devil's Dyke. But he's in. And things to tidy up for the second heat. Next up for Great Britain, Adam Baird with Austin Millward, Alex Cartagena and Luca Williams. And by the way, happy birthday to Ollie Butterworth, not on the sled this weekend. 27 today. 4th World Cup 4-man race for Bairdy. Raced here in Europe Cup in January 24. Austin Millward's 2nd 4-man race. Oh, and Adam Baird can't get in. He's not on the D-rings. Now he gathers it up, gets the bar in, 5.2. Well, we saw last week Johannes Lochner getting his feet caught, nearly didn't get into the sled. For Adam Baird, do I remember him having a problem getting in last week in the 4-man as well? Either way, 15th at the start, up to 14th on the splits. Oh, and skidding out of Sonny down into Nash and Dixon. Gather it up. Needs to really focus now. 16th place, 15th best speed. Can still drive himself back into contention. First World Cup race here. His World Cup best result is a 14th place finish. 15th at the moment, 15th best speed. Where is he at the line? 15th place out of 19, so he is in the second heat as well. Well, it wasn't tidy, it wasn't comfortable, but he is in the race. 19 sleds down. Gets his feet caught on the cow, both feet caught on the cow, nearly splits the difference. Come on, and his spikes are catching there. Come on, get in, get in. He knows the corner's coming, and he's the only one who can control the steering. They're just going to hit kink one. And Austin Millwood was still basically stood up at that stage. Skidding down here. Whoa. All right, here we go. Pat Norton with Mike Evelyn in his 13th World Cup starting four-man. Keaton Brugging second. Shaq Murray-Lawrence is 12th. It's only the 6th four-man World Cup race for driver Pat Norton. Made his debut in Lake Placid in February 2019. Finished 20th in the World Championships here in 2023. His only race on this track before this week. So 5:08 getaway. That's a strong start, isn't it? That's absolutely ripping it off the block. 5:08, 6th fastest getaway. 23rd in the two-man. Much better opportunity here in the four-man with that start to drive himself into the race. Made the cut and raced in Heat 4 of the World Championships 2 years ago. There's no good reason why he won't do the same again. Medium height in Horseshoe, only 1900s back. Top 10 run at the moment, but the speed isn't great. Perhaps not the newest of equipment, but he's driving it beautifully. 10th place on the splits, 10th speed at the bottom. This could be top 10 for Pat Norton of Canada. Across the line in 10th place. 1:05.42. Come on, Lyndon, that's worthy of a smile. Sixth best start, 10th at the bottom. He was 5th on the splits midway down, likes that. And so he should. Great job at the start by the boys, and a good drive out of Nash and Dixon. Tiniest of taps, doesn't deflect the four-man as much as the two-man. And then sweeping out a Horseshoe into Telephone. Nice, smooth transitions down at the bottom, got that speed back. 20 sleds down, the race is full, 3 to go. Kim Jin-soo of Korea with Chun Sung-yoon, Kim Sun-wook and Lee Gu-nyu. An all-new crew. They made their four-man debut in Winterberg, trained in Altenburg but didn't race. Kim 12th in the two-man. This is only his 3rd four-man drive in the World Cup. Started 37 races as a brakeman. This is his first time driving in St. Moritz after 5 World Cups and the World Championships as a brakeman. 7th best start. And these are good-looking lines. 5:10 getaway. Only a couple of hundreds behind Pat Norton of Canada. 1900s back. 7th on the splits at the moment. He's coming up from 10th. Speed's not quite holding, but this should be right where Pat Norton was. It should be 9th, 10th position. Somewhere around 5, 6 tenths back. Where's he going to be at the line? Higher than that. 8th place, 4400s back, 1:05.25. Well, that is a really good run from Kim Jin-soo in his 3rd four-man World Cup drive. Here's Horseshoe. Not a height, not height at all, right in the middle, and then holds it up late. Oh, not enough height, and came off maybe a couple of hundreds away from crashing. And still came down in 8th. Well, that was win it or bin it, but that wasn't win it or bin it. That was somehow they got away with that. Now then, for the first time since La Plan, January 2020, there is a four-man bobsleigh from Monaco. With Boris Vain, debutants Cyril Ferry and Arthur Prevost, although he's done two-man races, hasn't done a four-man, and returning for the first time since January 21, Steven Bourges on the back. 15 four-man races for Monaco, then 4 for France with Roman Heinrich. 5:23. Boris Vain's first four-man World Cup start. And judging by the colour of the sled, that might have been borrowed from the Germans. Last four-man World Cup for Monaco, Rudy Rinaldi had Boris Vain behind him and Steven Bourges, both on the sled. So for Boris, this has been work in progress for a while to get qualified with a four-man crew for the World Cup. 19th at the start, he's up to 16th place. Finished in 11th in the two-man yesterday. And Monaco need to get this sled wrapped or get their own sled. 18th best speed, 15th on the splits. Should be enough to make the race. And this is going to push out Jakob Mandelbauer, and Mattia Variola's already gone. And Mandelbauer is out and Boris Vain is in. 1:05.76. Monaco are back in the four-man game. And the result here less important than the fact that they are back. Boris Vain, Cyril Ferry, Arthur Prevost and Steven Bourges for the first time in 4 long seasons. Monaco has a four-man team. Little skid there into Horseshoe, not the best height, but they make it down and they are through and they are into the race in 15th. Now, Liechtenstein or Trinidad and Tobago. And again, he nearly crashed there out of Horseshoe as well. But they're in the second heat. So the first Caribbean sled in nearly 30 years in four-man, Axel Brown, with Shaquille John, Xavieri Williams and DeAndre John, all three making their four-man debut behind Axel, whose four-man debut came as a brakeman for Brad Hall. Lee Johnson behind their coach. Royal Navy athlete Shaquille John at 2, 28-year-old Xavieri Williams at 3, and DeAndre John at 4. They're in and down. 5:31 is the start, and again for Trinidad and Tobago, this has taken a while to get themselves qualified as a four-man crew. Axel raced yesterday with Shaq in the two-man sled, and they came down in 22nd place. 21st on the splits. 22nd fastest start. It is them or Liechtenstein. Last time we had a sled, it was from Jamaica. 20th on the splits. Axel Brown, Trinidad and Tobago could make the race in their debut in the four-man World Cup. 21st on the splits. Is the speed enough? Where is he at the line? 21st, they just do not get a second heat. 1:06.25. And Drazen Silic there from Croatia, watching along with Lee Johnson. Another man who knows what it's like to be part of a tiny sliding nation. Piccolo, a tiny amount for Axel Brown. Martin Krantz gets the second heat for Liechtenstein. Trinidad and Tobago do not, but they are back in the four-man game. Trinidad and Tobago have a two-man and a four-man presence in World Cup. First time in the World Cup for Trinidad and Tobago. The first time for a Caribbean team in the World Cup outside the Olympic Games for nearly 30 years. And at the other end, just as dramatic and nail-biting. Johannes Lochner is the leader, and so is Brad Hall. And really, let's be honest here, just 100th back, so is Francesco Frigid, and so is Mickey Vogt. 4 sleds covered by 100th. If this isn't going to be one of the most exciting bobsleigh races ever in St. Moritz history, I want to know what is. 4 sleds, 100th of a second, and all the other positions up for grabs. It's just going to be absolutely insane. A tie for 11th back there as well. And then even down towards the tail of the top 20, lots and lots of close battles, just a few hundreds in it. Look, Frank Del Duca, Adam Baird, 200s, 500s ahead of Sun Kai Chi. And Martin Krantz makes the cut ahead of Axel Braun, Jakob Mandelbauer and Mattia Variola. So, perhaps the most entertaining 4-man finale you will ever see will be coming up live at 3 p.m. local, 1400 GMT, 0900 Eastern, and that is in 30 minutes from now. Whatever else you are doing, do not go away. This is going to be absolutely spectacular.